Hey guys, hello. I am going to wait a little bit for people to come into the room. For those of you who don't know me, I am Tiana Nichelle. I have Crown Convos every Thursday at 8 p.m. We talk about relationship, black issues. We talk about family issues. And we talk about solutions. And most of our conversations started off with the things that we weren't taught growing up. And this talk is a part of it. I'm doing a part 2 to last week's conversation about infidelity and life after infidelity. And so I'm going to wait for some more people to get into the room. So I have these conversations, and it is to enlighten, encourage, provoke thoughts, help to shift your mindset surrounding different things. I even talk about purpose, and a whole lot of different other topics. So everything is on my YouTube channel at Crown Convos with Tiana Nichelle. And you can see the conversations. It's so many of them. Go over there and just watch all of the different conversations that I have had within the last year. Hello. So in this conversation, it is a part 2, like I said, to last week's conversation about infidelity and how do you get past it? How do you handle it? I wanted people to share their stories. People were on here last week, but they didn't share their stories. But I wanted people to share their stories of maybe experiences that they've had with either being cheated on or being a cheater, or just some of the issues surrounding relationships. Because I'm going to tell you, we weren't taught how to have relationships with other people. Like, a lot of us were not given that as a foundation. And it's crazy because that is the one thing that needs to be taught, is how do you do life with other people. And I know this is really a dating conversation, but in general, in order to get along in this world, you have to know how to cultivate relationships with family, with friends, with lovers, with your children, with coworkers. You have to know how to cultivate relationships, and that's the one thing that many of us did not get those lessons. Or if we saw our parents examples, all of those examples were not the greatest. And so some of us did not either you saw the example and went by the example, or you went in the opposite direction and created your own example of what you wanted. So I know that in the past I've talked about, like, my examples were my parents, and even how they did relationships with friends. They had a community that they cultivated, right? They had their friends. Like, I had godparents from my mom, godmothers, I should say, from my mom, godfathers from my dad. And they had friends that we did functions together and going over each other's houses and just different things, kids playing together. And it was definitely the basis for teaching me how to have friends. But on the flip side, like even looking at their relationship. So my parents, and I talked about this before, my parents were married for over 20 years and up to the point when my dad passed. And they didn't tell me specifically how to have a relationship with someone of the opposite sex. But I was looking at their example and the things that they did. Now, they didn't argue in front of us, and I'm not gonna say the relationship was perfect because it wasn't. They had arguments. I remember them having arguments, and I can hear them, in their room going back and forth, but they never did it in front of us where we could actually hear them and see them going at it. But the way that they submitted to one another, the way that they were attentive to one another is something that I saw growing up that many people do not get to experience. And so, but they didn't see those things growing up. They had a different example before them, and they're an example of doing something completely opposite from what they were shown. And so going into relationships, and I think that I'm going to carry the relationship itself topic over to next week and talk about the relationship between women. Because I think it's really necessary that we have that community conversation. Because a lot of relationships that I have seen between women are very toxic, but the relationship between man and woman, like, it's almost like women are more forgiving of the opposite sex than the same sex. And then there's always some type of a competition between women. But these things are taught as girls. And so I think next week we're going to delve into that topic. But for now, we're going to talk about relationships and infidelity, healing, and becoming the spouse that you want or need while you're waiting to get married. And so a lot of times, like I was saying before, hello, we don't know how to do relationships because we don't get those specific lessons as kids. Like, we're not taught, this is how you have friendships. This is how you have a relationship with the opposite sex. Our parents, most of the time, don't even go to the relationship part. They talk about sex. And there's never like a balance. And I feel like that's a conversation that we really need to be having now, because a lot of, I would say, my generation, I just turned 38, so my generation has not, and this is just what I have observed and people that I have talked to, they're still in the dating phases. A lot of them, you have some that are married, but their marriages are not the best. And there's just a lot of different things that teenagers and young adults from my age group, the product of my age group, are seeing, and they don't know necessarily how to have relationships or even attach themselves to a relationship that is healthy, because that example is not before them. But here's the thing, we have more language and more awareness of a lot of different things than what we had before, or what our parents had and our grandparents had. So that actually should not be. We should actually be sitting down and talking to these young people about relationships. And I know that some of us are still trying to figure it out, but for those who have the wisdom, the knowledge, and the experience based on what they've experienced in their own dating life, or the things that they might want, or even you might be in a healthy place now than what you were before, and you've realized some errors that you've made, and you're like, okay, I don't want my kid, my niece, my nephew to make the same mistakes that I made. So, I'm going to have this conversation. So what I wanted to talk about was the infidelity part. And I put up a video clip last week. And this was Dear Future Wife podcast, which is really, really good. I do encourage you all to check out that podcast, because it is very much so about relationships, and that's not necessarily the basis for what I do, but it's a part of it because we do relationships in all aspects of our life. So this is a community conversation, so I might pull from different experiences or different podcasts or different things that might happen in the media or whatever in order to further our conversation. So I was watching the Dear Future Wifey podcast, and it was really an eye-opener to see that, well, the different couples that are on there, but this particular couple, because it's not common that a man will stay in a relationship with a woman who was not faithful. We always hear of women who have stayed in relationships with men who were unfaithful and, multiple times, with outside babies and break babies and all of these different things. And we rarely see when men stay in the relationship. So I really thought that was interesting. But also what was interesting to me was the different perspectives that they both had growing up, even though they both come from a religious background. They both grew up in the church, but his family was more family oriented, and he saw his father do things differently in how he treated his mother. Like, his father cultivated the relationship with his mother and then took the time to talk to him about how to be a man and have relationships. So his perspective was different from his wife's, who had a more toxic household where her father was not the perfect example of what a husband should be. And one minute, he was nice to her mother, and the next minute he was very volatile. So going into a relationship with another person, I know that many don't talk about what life experiences you've had before you've gotten into the relationship, but I'm going to tell you that that's very necessary. It's very necessary because if you don't understand or have an understanding of what someone has been through, how do you do life with them, and how do you not trigger them? How do you pour into them? How do you have grace for them? If you don't understand those things, have the conversations about what you've been through, what your expectations might be, and even going to a therapist together and separately to hash out whatever the issues are prior to the marriage, or not even addressing your relational issues. A lot of the times you have to address your personal issues because they spill off into your relationship, and if you don't address them, then a lot of the times that is why arguments are caused, because you have this view or this pain point that you have not exposed to your partner, and then they might trigger that pain point or make you feel vulnerable and you're not ready for that vulnerability or ready to address it. And being in a relationship with somebody is really the most vulnerable place that you will ever be, because you are opening yourself up, or supposed to be opening yourself up, to them. And you all are supposed to be doing life together. So in doing that, those things need to be shared, because you want to help your partner to heal and to be better. Like, I'm not saying that you have to, that you are responsible for their happiness. That's not what I'm saying. But when you are in a relationship with somebody, they should feel better that you're there, and vice versa. Like, you all should feel better. It's a partnership. You are walking together. You're supposed to share your load together, your burdens together, the love together, your experiences together. All of those things are supposed to be done within the constraints of a relationship. And so a lot of the times when those things are not shared and there's a failure to communicate is when infidelity starts, because now you are starting to communicate with somebody else outside of the relationship. And I said it before in a previous live where cheating starts, or infidelity starts, before the actual act of sex. It starts with a conversation. And if you go, you know what, I'll just link it. I'll link it when I post this to that video. Or actually, I'll play the clip. I'll post the clip so you can see it. But she talked about the things that she was feeling is the reason why she dipped out in the relationship. The wife that was on this podcast, she dipped out because, one, they were 20 years old. They lived in 2 separate states at this time, because he was in school. She had, just got a job. Then things weren't going well for him. He was kind of taking it out on her. They were arguing. And she just had enough about, their arguments. Like, she was done. She went back to Vegas, and he was in California. She went back to Vegas, and her coworker was a listening ear, and boom, after a couple conversations, or however they did it, but she did say it started with the conversation, is when they slept together. And so she said she felt convicted after, and called her husband immediately and told him. Initially, he thought it was a joke, but then when she broke down crying, hello, is when he realized that this was like real. And so I thought it was interesting, because most times when people cheat, they don't just stop at that one time. They keep going. It's a few times. They're hiding. They're not forthcoming with the information. And a lot of the times it's drug out. All of these people's emotions are involved. And then all of a sudden, somebody does something and now it's all exposed. That's usually how it comes out. But for her to call him and, say, I messed up, I did X, Y, and Z, I felt like that was very mature at the age of 20 to actually just expose yourself. But also, when she talked about the reasons why she cheated, and then also the unhealthy things that she experienced in her past, I really was like, this is something that we really need to talk about, because a lot of people, including myself, have had unhealthy relationships at one point or another, or were unhealthy ourselves in our relationships, and then it turned into, some level of toxicity, and then you pour that into a healthy relationship where you're not having those issues. You take that out on the next person, and then now you have a dysfunctional relationship and you are essentially blaming the other person for something that somebody else has done. And I've talked about that previously. Like, that's one of the things that a lot of people have to stop doing. And that comes with healing, though. I don't think people really understand the importance of actually healing before you get yourself into a serious relationship or even getting married. Because marriage is for grown people. It really is. Like, marriage is for grown people. Because when you think about all that it comes with, it takes a level of maturity to be in relationship with somebody for until you all probably pass away, and go through the stages and phases and ups and downs and learning how to communicate and keeping up with the ever so changing lives of one another. Like, that takes a different level of maturity, and I don't think a lot of people really understand that. You said hurt people end up hurting other people. That's really true, and that's why healing is important, because you will spill out your venom, your pain on someone else, and then cause them the same type of pain that you were caused. And some people do it unintentionally, and other people, they just go around hurting people because somebody hurt them. Either way, it's not a good thing. And if you want something healthy and long term, then you have to be cognizant of your own healing process. And so in that, I did want people to talk about, their own experiences, but we're not gonna get really into that, because me telling this story about their experience, I feel like it's enough. But making it a point to heal is what I'm gonna get into now, is really something that everyone should do. Because the reason why we have so much chaos with mother-daughter relationships, father-son relationships, husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, whoever. The reason why there's so many issues is because everybody's hurting in some way, shape, form, or fashion, and not necessarily getting the proper healing that they need. And in the Black community, we always have issues with going to counseling or seeking outside help. We always have an issue with that, because we were taught that was white people stuff. Like, if you was to say in the 90s, oh, I'm going to see my therapist, they're like, oh, so you white. But to be quite honest, you need somebody outside of your friend circle, outside of your relationship circle, to talk to about whatever it is that you're going to. If it's not an actual counselor, then a life coach. And I think life coaches are the realest, to be quite honest. I feel like many times counselors you can BS, but you really can't BS a life coach. And they're going to be all the way 100 with you. And that's technically what you need. But I do not think that if you feel like counseling is the way to go for you, then so be it. But I do think that life coaches are really, like, they really help you when it comes to figuring out your ish. Because sometimes, and I've known, I'm going to just say I've known people, even when I've gone in counseling, I felt like it was, certain things were not pulled out of me. It was more so we were coasting, instead of being like, okay, girl, you need to do X, Y, and Z. Or a life coach is going to say that. A life coach is going to be like, okay, let's be real here. The counselors were not like that. But I will recommend, because the counselors that I went to were not BetterHelp, but BetterHelp counselors are pretty good. So I suggest that you go through them. or to find a life coach, a mentor, a relationship coach. I do some coaching in empowerment. I do some relationship coaching as well. So if you are interested in that, you can click the link in my bio. But I do recommend that you get some type of help from outside professionals to help guide you along, because a lot of times we can be caught in our own toxic traits that we don't see what it really is. We don't see what our ish really is. We kind of have a way of BSing ourselves into thinking that we're perfect people, into thinking that we're always doing things the right way, and nothing is wrong with us. Like, we're so good at sweeping things under the rug, but when you sweep all that dirt under the rug, eventually the rug is the dirt is piling up under the rug. Like, the rug is going to sit up from all of the ish that you sweeping up under there. So you gotta figure out how to get you, a little assistance so that you can be better. And even I'll just talk about my own experiences. I had gone through some things growing up, and when I started dating, I was not the best. I was a mess. I was a hot mess. I was fussing and like I didn't want him doing anything for me. I was always like, I could do it myself. I don't need that. I was just not the best. And I talked about this before, where I had to go back to my ex and apologize for the nonsense that, I had going on, because I was just rowdy and going off at every turn for no reason. And so I have learned how to work out my ish, work through my ish. I used to be really, really mean. You couldn't say nothing to me. You could not, my attitude was so bad, y'all. It was so bad. And so I am glad that I am not that person. As long as you don't test me, we not going there. But for the most part, I am not that person that I was before. And so, but that took work, even in how I deal with my relationship now. Like, it's not perfect. It takes work. And sometimes it will take you to, have to pull back a little bit, on some things, because you can't always, when you're in a relationship with somebody, it's like there's a give and a take that people don't understand. There's submission on both parts. I think that people look at submission as just a woman is supposed to be doing it. But no, there should be submission on both parts, because that's how the relationship, that's how you come to your middle ground. That's how you get to see eye to eye. You give, I give. It is a give and take on both ends. And you want to be in relationship with somebody where you can have that, because it makes it actually so much easier, instead of it constantly being a tug of war, and understanding that you are on the same team, you got the same goal. And for a lot of people, they don't understand that. They look at their significant other as as competition, and that should not be. And so when you're constantly in battle, how are you going to have some type of loving experience if every time you see each other, you're finding something wrong with one another, or you're going toe to toe. You can't have a conversation. You don't have any enjoyment. You wind up sucking the life out of one another. So in my relationship, I realized that sometimes, because I'm a Virgo and my significant other is a Virgo too, so sometimes we bump heads. And I have to be like, okay, let me pull back. Let me get myself together. And maybe I need to see this from his perspective, because maybe I'm not seeing this right. And so sometimes he'll do the same thing. He'll be like, okay, you know what? I didn't mean that. And so we're learning how to take a step back in that regard. And so I really feel like it helps you to communicate better when you do that, and not come at each other from an angry standpoint. You actually can have more effective conversations when you do that. But getting back to the healing part, that took for me to heal in order to get to this place now, where I'm like, okay, let me listen to what you have to say before I hit the ceiling, because now I'm at a place where I'm trying to understand where you're coming from, versus trying to beat you to the punch with an insult or whatever your thought is. And that's actually something that I used to do, like, oh, let me say this before you say it. And it's just like, for what though? Like, it's nonsense. It don't even make sense to do all that. So in order to have a healthy dynamic, and I realized, like, even him, he didn't used to be that way. He used to try to, like, kind of think of things that I would say, and kind of, he would try to beat me to the punch with certain things. And I'm like, okay, we don't, I'm not trying to, like, I'm not trying to be offensive or get you, you know, out of character or anything. So you don't have to try to beat me to the punch. Like, I would say, okay, we on the same team. Let's have a conversation. And then, you know, or if we can't have a conversation right now, let's go back and revisit it. So it has taken some work, but I realized that relationships really take work. Relationships are a full-time job. They really are. Healthy ones. And they don't come easy. It takes work on both ends. So the other part is, once you have healed, you have worked through your ish, you know, you have learned how to communicate, but you still feel hesitant on dating, you know, after you have dealt with infidelity or going forward with that person. So you have to make up in your mind, is the relationship and what you all are building more important than the act? And for some people, I would say, if that person is a repeat offender, then I feel like that's a level of disrespect that you have to figure out if that's something that you can really do. But if it was just the one time, and, you know, they've apologized, and, you know, they have been, you know, on the straight and narrow, there's no need to keep bringing up those that action, because all it's going to do is keep creating pain, because now you're reliving it. So that part is what you got to get healed from, because once you say you forgive someone, walking out that forgiveness is not bringing it up at every turn or using that as a weapon to do something else. And that's something that a lot of people do. When their significant other hurts them, they try to find some type of tool or weapon to use in order to hurt them or make them feel the same pain. But a lot of the times that kind of stuff backfires. I wouldn't even recommend doing that. Try to have a conversation, and if you can't do it, then be grown enough to walk away. Be grown enough to say, you know what, I don't think this is gonna work. I don't think we are gonna work. And, leave it there. Like, that's it. So even the whole getting them back thing, like, don't do that, because it's gonna come back on you. When you do that, now you all are playing this game, and if you all are on the same team, then there should be no tit for tat going on. No way, shape, form, and fashion. That's not even healthy. So that's why getting healthy is really important. Talking to a therapist, a counselor, a life coach, relationship coach is really important, because it will get you together on so many levels. But once you have, and I know a lot of people have this, like, once they're out there in the dating world, let's just say they decided, you know what, I'm not going to go forward with the relationship, and then they start dating. And it's like, how do you date after you have had someone to lie to you, to deceive, to, the whole cheating thing? Like I say, it is, a break in trust and commitment. And so that break in trust and commitment for a lot of people makes it harder for them to date. And that's why you have all of these people who are guarded and doing all of this other manner of stuff, because they're dating while they're still hurting. And so you might ask, okay, well, how am I supposed to navigate this? Hello. But once you've gotten healed, it should be easier for you to take a step into the dating arena, because then you have the tools to do it. Now, if you're like, well, I don't know if this person is going to do it. You can't predict another person's behavior. You can only strive for a good experience. And let me say this, because dating is an experience. Marriage is an experience. It's a more committed, grown up experience, because that is your person for life. That's your partner for life. So it's a more mature experience than just dating. But when you are in, like, going out on these dates and things like that, number one, make sure you're fully healed. Number two, do not have a negative thought process. Because if you have a negative thought process, you're going to draw all of the negative experiences to you. Everything that you think about is what you draw towards you. And if you are like, okay, we're going to have a good experience, this is just going to be me getting to know, someone, or, just getting back out there. When you first get out there, don't be out there talking about you about to find the one to settle down with. Now, while that might be a part of your goal, enjoy the experience. Enjoy the dates, the conversations, all of that kind of stuff. Don't try to rush to the finish line, because it doesn't even give you enough time to get to know that person, because you need to see them in a different light. And I've talked about this before. Your first date should be at a coffee shop where you all can, it's not expensive. You all can have a conversation, enjoy a cup of coffee. You're in a safe environment, but, you can talk about a few things. And so then if that goes well, the second date could be, maybe dinner. Maybe you try dinner. And go from there. But on the first date, don't automatically jump to you ready to get married unless this is what he's asking. If he specifically asks you, okay, are you ready to get married or whatever the case may be. Now, if you all have that conversation, then that's one thing. But don't be out here bringing that conversation to the first date. Like, no, ease into it, have fun. But while you are in the waiting of dating, well, while you're dating in the waiting of getting married, I should say, learning how to be the best husband and the best wife that you want and need is very key. And when I say that, it is, what type of relationship do you want? What type of family dynamic do you desire? You have to think about that. And think about, okay, if I want the best experience, the best marriage, what is it that I need to do? Because you can't control that other person, but you can definitely control yourself. So what is it that I need to do? Do I need to get healthy? Do I need to start going out and doing things and experiencing different things before that? I would say enjoy life while you're in your single season. And go on those solo lunch dates with yourself. Go to that movie. Go on trips. Do things that make you happy, because if you're happy before you get into the relationship and that person is happy before they get into the relationship with you, when both of you all come together, you both are going to have happier experiences because you're not dependent on one another for your happiness. And so working on your attitude, are you constantly bashing men? That's not going to work in the constraints of a marriage. That ain't going to work. Ain't no man going to want to be bothered with you. If you constantly cussing them out, clowning, that's running them in the other direction. Now, they might just sleep with you, but they're not going to want to do nothing serious with you. You definitely not going to be proposed to clowning like that. Like, it's not going to happen. And I'm saying that because I've been proposed to quite a few times. So I'm telling you what I know from my own experience. And the reason I did not get married is because I was not ready. And I think that I made the best decision, because had I gotten married at those times, I don't think I would still be married, because I still had work to do. And that's the other part. If you all are like praying for a spouse and all of that kind of stuff, you have to do the work, and God will send somebody in your own in his timing, not in your timing, in his timing. And you have to be ready for that. You really have to be ready for that person. And if you're out here spazzing out at every turn, you have all of these terrible spending habits, you can't spend all the money, sis or bro, on those Louis Vuittons or those Jordans or whatever the shoe collection is, and then sustain a whole entire family, or pay for your children's future, unless you're making millions and millions of dollars. And a lot of people ain't making that type of money. So realistically speaking, you have to develop healthier habits in your single season that will help you to be a better spouse in your married season. And it will help to draw your spouse to you once you are ready. And so I think that knowing what I know, I'm glad that I didn't jump up and just, get married, because with the attitude that I had, even though my attitude was bad and then I started working on it here and there, I still had, okay, I didn't communicate well. I was not a good communicator at one point. So one of my relationships, we didn't have good communication. And I was in my early 20s then. was just like, I can't do this. But I wasn't communicating. It was just, I was frustrated and didn't know how to say, I'm frustrated with you. Let's have a conversation. I would just be like, I'm going to walk away and whatever happen. Whatever, bro. Peace out. And that's not how you handle relationships. You can't deal with marriage like that. So needless to say, I'm glad that I didn't do that when I had the opportunities with an S to do that. Because I truly was not walking in the spirit or, the space of a wife. Like, I had wife qualities, but I wasn't fully there because I had runaway bride syndrome. And when things got a little, too much, or even I remember this guy that I was dating, and he wanted to just know about me. Like, he wanted to know deeper things about me. I used to just be surface. I didn't tell all the details. I would just be like, well, as long as you know my name, you know where I live, you know what I do. That's it. That's all you need to know. You don't need to know nothing else. Like, he started asking, your family history. Can I meet them? I was like, no, you can't meet them. I don't want to meet your family. I don't want it to go that far. Like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to delve into, talking about my daddy. And I didn't have no daddy issues, but talking about him dying, I had an issue surrounding talking about him, and he was dead. So I didn't want to talk about that. I suppressed a lot of things that I had even experienced, and he wanted to know all of that. I didn't want to talk about it. So needless to say, it wasn't going to work because I didn't go that deep. I was just like, why you just can't get with the program of what I'm doing? So I wasn't ready. Because when you are ready to be in a relationship with someone, you are going to go deep. You are going to go and have those conversations. You're going to want to communicate. You're going to want to know about one another. You're going to want to know the ins and outs of each other, because it's going to be something that you feel that you want because you want to do life with this person. And when you're in a marriage and it doesn't have the communication and all of that, it's lifeless. And I realized, like, in order for me not to have a lifeless marriage, I have to become full of life. I have to be happy. I have to be fulfilled in my single season, because I'm dating. I'm in a relationship, but I'm still considered single because I'm not married. But in my single season, I have learned to be happy, to do things for myself that make me happy, that bring me joy, peace, comfort. Some things I do that take me outside of my comfort zone, just because I'm like, you can't always be comfortable with everything, but those things have helped me to have new experiences. And so I'm grateful for that. But that is what men need to do, and that's what women need to do. I think for both, you have to get out of what looks good. You have to get out of the aesthetics of, hello. You have to get out of the aesthetics of what looks good in a relationship. Like, a lot of people are taking these pictures and they're like, well, we look good together. But outside of Instagram and Facebook, how are y'all functioning? You will go through with a whole marriage for the aesthetics and then be in a lifeless marriage. Like, you have to understand that it's deeper than that. And that's why I said in the beginning of this conversation, it's grown people-ish, because it gets so deep. It's not going to be perfect. You're going to have ugly moments. It's going to be all types of jacked up. But at the end of the day, you all have a common goal. If you all have the communication, if you all already have your happiness, and you're not depending on one another to make each other happy, and you all respect one another, you all are friends, then you all can have a conversation and come together and figure out the issue between the two of you. But if you just doing it for the aesthetic, it ain't gonna go that far. Y'all gonna be divorced in a month. And it's a lot of people that are getting married to turn around and get divorced because they was doing for the aesthetic, or they was doing it because they was lonely, or they was doing it because they thought that person was gonna make them happy. No, while you in your single season, and that's your dating season, even if you're in a relationship, you have to do things to enhance yourself. So, like I was saying, taking those personal dates, going on trips, doing new things. For me, my relationship with God is like the bomb.com. It is the bomb.com. That's all I have to say. I didn't used to be that person where I would read my Bible every day and, try to understand the word and this, that, and the other. But it has also helped me with my attitude. It has helped me to be more humble. It has helped me to seek him first when things are happening. And it will actually help you in your relationship, because it's definitely helped me. I ain't even gonna lie, because it be times where I be like, I'm about to smack you, and then I have to be like, no, that's not what God would want me to do. I cannot put my hands on you. So let me pull back. let me get myself together, and then let me talk to you. Let's have a conversation. It sometimes get real where you be like, but I feel like if you have, and this is one thing, a lot of people really are not telling that you need to really have God at the foundation of your relationship, at the foundation of your marriage, because once you have that at the forefront, both of y'all will be able to get down on your knees when something go left. You will be able to pray for the other person, because stuff gonna happen. And that's the part that I really need people to understand. If you are not fulfilled before you get married, and you're practicing these things and you're doing these things, it's going to be hard once you make that decision. Because how are you going to go to battle when you all are both like going through? Like, how are you going to fight for one another if you are going through situations? You're going to experience death. You're going to experience all types of things where you have to address. And when I say experience death, I mean like parents dying, auntie dying, the people that's around you. How are you all going to, help one another? You might experience job loss. You might experience, let's say a reduction in salary, the kids acting a fool. How are you going to navigate that? Maybe one spouse goes through something medically. Maybe, another goes through something, physically. How are you going to address those issues? That's why I feel like God should be at the basis, because the first thing that you need to do is to pray. I'm just saying. The first thing that you need to do is to pray. And every morning I pray, and I pray for him every morning. And that's one of the things that I do, because I feel like it's necessary. It also gives encouragement. The other part is learning to encourage yourself so that you can be of encouragement to others, to be of encouragement to your significant other. That is something that you should be doing in your single season, because when you have learned and mastered to encourage yourself, to build your confidence, your self-esteem, your self-awareness, it will help you to be a better partner in your relationship and in your marriage. And so those are things that, I didn't really see my parents do, like encouraging all the time, but that's something that I do. Like right here, I have my vision board that has my affirmations and all that kind of stuff. And so that's what I do. And, you know, in the morning when he and I text, I'll send him words of encouragement because I know that he's going out. Like, I work from home. So I'm not going out to do anything unless it's other type of work, like for my nonprofit or, you know, my business. But I also have a 9 to 5 as well. And so my 9 to 5, I'm at home. My business, sometimes I'm at home, sometimes I'm out of the home. My nonprofit, 9 times out of 10, I'm outside of the home. So, like, I know that for him, he's going out into the world. He is, you know, has a lot of things on his plate. And so I try to give him, you know, encouragement every morning. If I don't do it, you know, first thing in the morning, I give it to him by 10 o'clock, 10 o'clock. But I try to make sure that I encourage him because I know that he has a lot that is on his shoulders as a man. And I just want him to constantly be affirmed and assured that things are going to be okay. You know, that he is strengthened when he's at work and he is, you know, feeling confident in his abilities. And so that is something that I do. And I think that that's something that is very important for even couples to do. I think that it will enhance a lot of relationships if you encourage one another, because even he pours into me, you know, I'll tell him, you know, something that I might be feeling. Like when I was doing, doing the supply drive last month, and I was just like, oh, you know, I want to do this like this and all of this. Like I had written out what I wanted it to be because it's 3rd year to honor my sister, so I wanted it to be special. I had a goal where I wanted to help, you know, 100 kids. And I was just telling him, like, I don't know what this looks like. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but this is what I want to do. You know, I've been doing it for 3 years, but I want this one to be bigger. I want to be able to help more families that have children with disabilities. And in the past, you know, I had a few families last year and then a couple the first year when I did it with my sister. So it was like I wanted it to be bigger because I felt like that's what's necessary. And I was doubting myself, I'm not gonna lie, because I was just like, did I lose it? Like 100 kids. Where am I gonna get these 100 kids from? And he was just like, this is your purpose. This is what you do. He got me together. And mind you, I'm in the store and I'm like, yeah, but you know, I had those moments sometimes. Because I know that the dreams that I have for myself are really big. Like they all on my vision board. They're written down in my journal notebooks. But the dreams that I have are really, really big. And so, you know, when I'm just telling him this thing and he came back with the encouragement, I was just like, I couldn't do nothing but just take it in. And let me tell you, the opportunity to be given a booth at an event happened right after he poured into me. You know, I had the opportunity to be at an event, and then went to the event. I had an opportunity to connect with parents who were just like, you know, this is amazing. I was able to help them, give them school supplies for their kids. You know, I had snacks out there. But also after that, because I had went through the neighborhoods too. Like I went through the neighborhoods, put up flyers everywhere, you know, talking to people, telling people, okay, I'm going to be at Kindness Day, you know, come and get school supplies for your kids, whatever. those people did not show. But when I got to Kindness Day, it was a whole nother set of people that did show. But I was like, I still have this goal in mind of helping, 100 kids. And so I felt like, okay, I didn't really meet that goal. So, okay, what is it that I need to do? Like, where should I be going? And when I tell you, he was like, the doors are going to open for you because this is your purpose. When that man said that to me and poured into me, I was like, okay. And lo and behold, I went to the school that my sister went to, a couple schools that she went to, and the teachers was like, even the administrator, they were like, we need help. The other part was, I had donors that came out the woodwork. People were giving. I didn't even know that people were gonna give the way that they gave. It was amazing. I was able to get all of these school supplies for these kids. I actually exceeded my goal. I was able to give school supplies to the Speed District. I'm not sure if you all are familiar with that. I posted it on my Instagram and my Facebook page, but I was able to give to those kids. They actually need more supplies, so I'm working on that. But the high school that she went to, I went there to ask them that they need any school supplies, and the assistant principal was like, no, we'll give you school supplies. So everything, him pouring into me and me being like, okay, yeah, you right, God's gonna work it out, and the doors just open, the floodgates just open for all of it, and I actually exceeded my goal. I done gave school supplies to over 250 kids. Actually, if I'm being honest, it's almost at 400 kids, and I still need more school supplies because other schools said that they have a need. They were saying that, the kids came to school, didn't have book bags, didn't have certain things, and it's just like everything just started to happen. But I say all that to say is, pouring into your significant other is something that is necessary, but in order to get there, you got to pour into yourself first. So if it had not been for me, doing my affirmations before I got with him, doing my affirmations every morning, praying and talking to God every morning, and then I pour into him in the mornings, and he turns around and pours into me, and that just gave me a boost when I needed it. And he was right on time with it, and everything just opened up. Like, everything just worked itself out, and I exceeded the goal that I had. And I had donors that was just like, we got you. I had freaking Albanese donate gummy bears. Like, they gave 300 gummy bears or something for the giveaway, to give with the kids. Like, the snacks, I was able to buy snacks to give away with their supplies, and it was just amazing. But that is why I am saying that partnership and pouring into yourself, and then learning how to pour into your partner is very important, because it will open up a whole world of a lot of things, and it will make your relationships better going forward. And so I'm just using that as an example because that literally just happened not even 30 days ago. And so it's been amazing. And there's another event that I'm going to be doing in November that I don't want them to even have to pay for. I want to be able to have an event where we celebrate everyone who is in the disability community, the kids, the parents, even the donors that donated. And I'm working on that, trying to figure out the funding for that part, because I want it to be awesome, just to celebrate them, celebrate their lives. And so that part, but there is something to be said when you have a vision and you're with somebody that helps to pour into that vision. It is like, it's amazing. I will say that. And that's what's necessary. So that's why it is necessary for you to be healthy in your single season, so that once you are, in relationship and in a marriage, you will be healthy in that marriage and be able to pour into one another, be able to go to battle for each other, and it will be a healthy dynamic. But you gotta first get healthy yourself. So I have been on here for over an hour. I am going to just say, if you have experienced infidelity, as most of us have, don't use that as a tool to hurt other people, but use it as an experience and an opportunity to heal yourself, and going forward to build yourself up and become the spouse and the person that you want to be before you go out and you start dating. Hello. And getting into relationships with people. Make sure you are first happy and fulfilled in your single season. You are healthy so that you can communicate, and you will make better choices even in relationships. Because a lot of times, I will say that the choices that we make in relationships have a lot to do with the place that we're in when we get into those relationships. So if you are in a healthier place, in a healthy mind state, you are happy, you are enjoying life, you will essentially attract someone who is at the same place. And then with both of you being happy, being healthy, able to communicate, and you all have the ability to pour into one another and to be there for one another, it's gonna work. Communicate, get you a therapist, get you a life coach. You gonna work. Y'all gonna work, and have God at the foundation. Y'all gonna work. So, that is it for tonight. I want you all to have a wonderful night. And if you all are dealing with, healing or trying to heal from, infidelity, from, heartbreak and things like that, I actually did a actual master class a few months back on that. But if you all want me to do that master class again, let me know, because it was really good. It was heartbreak and loss, and I got some positive feedback from it. But let me know if that's what you all are needing, and then if you want to do some one-on-ones, just click the link in my bio, or you can DM me. Or if you have a conversation that you want to have, let me know. You can DM me and put in whatever topics you want me to talk about. Or if you want to come on, you can come on and we can talk. We can have community conversations. Next week, I want to touch on Mean Girls, which is relationships between women, and the mean girl spirit that resurrects itself from when we are kids. So I actually want to talk about that and talk about how it happens, and the different perspectives around womanhood and being friends with women and doing life with women. I do know that a lot of the times the relationship dynamic that we have with our mothers, or the women who are primarily in our lives, has a lot to do with the relationships that we have with other women. So we're going to delve into that next Thursday at 8 p.m. at the same time, 8 p.m., same Instagram. I'm going to repost this on my YouTube channel at Crown Convos with Tiana and Michelle. So you can go on there. It'll be up tomorrow. You can also see replays of different conversations. I actually need to go live more often. A lot of people have said that they would like me to do lives more than once a week. So I am working on that because I actually want to do some to help families who have children with disabilities. So I am going to work on that. I am also, if you want to be a volunteer, as the other part, I actually have that's the other part. I didn't say that. So with my nonprofit, Empower Society, it's an organization, nonprofit organization, and a mobile app where every morning you get inspirational messages, empowerment messages every morning, every afternoon. I also have, it's a directory of services and resources for families to help families with children with disabilities. So there is, who do I have listed? I have Gigi's Playhouse. I have different universities that cater to the disability community. I have different organizations that have listed. There's a lot of different listings. You can go on there, download it. It is in the Apple App Store. It is also on Google Play. There are articles in there about parenting a child with special needs. There are, we feature different books, all of that kind of stuff. It's a lot of stuff. It's a lot of stuff in that app. Go download the app. But also, if you want to volunteer to help with Empower Society, with any part of the supply drive, if you want to do any aspect of it, you can send me a message. You can also email me at contact at empowersociety21.org, or you can email me directly on here. Yeah. So if you want to volunteer to help do anything, I am open. I actually have now 1 employee. So yay. Because I've been doing everything myself. Writing the emails and everything. I've been doing everything myself. Now I have an employee. But I also need volunteers to go out into the community. Also, I want to do community conversations with Black people who have children with disabilities, and so much more. There's so much more. So if you think that's something that you want to do, make sure that you message me, inbox me, and don't forget whatever conversations that you would like to have in the future on here. You can also send me a message and we can have a conversation. Make sure that you share this with a family member, a friend, somebody that needs it. And I will see you back on here next Thursday if I don't go live between now and then. So have a good night. Bye.